Hello everyone, welcome to Walk the Parks. My name is Blake. Today we are going to do just the cool part of Peekaboo Slot Canyon. This is an awesome slot canyon. You can access it either by going to, you can go to Lower Dry Fork Trailhead or Upper Dry Fork Trailhead. The closest way is to go to, to be honest, they're almost equidistant, really. Um, so I do have another video that has this entire hike, starts from the trailhead, shows exactly what the approach is like. And typically people do Spooky and Peekaboo Canyon together. Um, I also explored up Dry Fork a little bit, which at that sign we were at was kind of like to the left, whereas we're kind of going to the right. The one thing to keep in mind about Peekaboo, I've noticed that people kind of struggle and get a little bit confused as to where the entrance is, even though there is a sign very close to it, and it makes sense. I would argue that the first move into Peekaboo is probably the hardest. So if you're able to do that, you can probably do the whole thing. Now, as far as Spooky goes, it's not that there's a ton of stuff that's more technical, but it's super narrow. So make sure at the trailhead there's like a little thing that shows can you fit through these bars, and make sure you can fit through those pretty easily because the canyon is definitely just that wide. So you have to be careful. All right, so here's that next sign I was talking about, and we're gonna kind of go to the left. Spooky is to the right. But we go here, and then it is right in front of us. It's not really hard left, like some people might think, oh, I should go up that wash. It is right here. Slot canyons, because they are so narrow, do have some interesting entrances at times. This is no exception. So you can kind of see there's like some rocks built up to kind of give you a little bit of a little start on there. Again, I would say this is probably the most challenging part of the canyon. It's not too bad, but if you hate this or it freaks you out, then maybe consider not doing it because and you could walk up if you're looking for something easier. There's really cool just up the Dry Fork Narrows. That's really cool and pretty much just flat, and it does get pretty narrow in there, which is quite cool. Apologies, some of my camera work here. I don't exactly have a cameraman or anything like that. Again, I just wanted to show the cool video so somebody might think to themselves, what can I expect when I go to Peekaboo? And here it is. It's kind of nice that there's little notches you can put your feet in. I remember I've been here a couple times. Very first time I was here, I remember I personally was kind of confused. Like, is this the entrance? I definitely have a lot more hiking experience since then. So I've kind of learned a little bit, but I'm still not the foremost canyoneer in the world. I am 6'4" and not exactly the smallest framed person. So because of that, I don't think canyoneering or caving is really like what I excel at, but I would love to do more canyoneering. It is pretty fun. I like the concept too of like you start from the top and kind of rappel in and you're going down versus like rock climbing where you're always, kind of going up. So, and on, excuse me, on Peekaboo Canyon, you're kind of going every which way. So this is in the Scorpion Wilderness Study Area, which is really cool. They've done some research and they actually think this is like one of the lowest values that they've found in terms of ambient noise. This is one of the quietest places in America. So of course you listen to me ramble on and on in the quietest place in America. This canyon is super picturesque. I'm a big fan. I really think like Spooky Canyon, you're kind of like claustrophobic. You're kind of just closed in there and just trying to move through it. It also is a little bit. I mean, it's definitely picturesque. It's a slot canyon. It's cool. But I would say as far as just straight up beauty, Peekaboo is pretty amazing. Because you are in a slot canyon, you might consider there is pit toilets at the trailheads, so consider using those. Might not want to be in here having to use the restroom. As always with slot canyons, one of the most important things is to keep in mind flash floods. Um, the soil in the desert a lot of times is not very permeable, meaning if it rains a lot, the ground does not absorb much. And much of the United States, like in forest and Especially like the East Coast, it can get a lot of rain and then the ground just absorbs it and absorbs it. It's almost the opposite in the desert. You run into a lot of stuff like this where it's just hard, slick rock. So what happens is all the rain falls and then it kind of just slides down. And you can tell if there's water that slides into here, it wouldn't really take that much water to fill this up. And it would be really, really, really hard to climb out of here slash impossible. So be very careful. If there is rain threatening in the forecast, you probably do not want to go in the slot canyon. While slot canyons themselves they can be very cool inside of them. It's actually really nice, nice break from the heat a lot of times. Be careful coming here and other places in the summertime. You can just bake in the heat. It can just be terrible. A lot of times people think like, "Oh, I'm excited for the sunshine and the heat," but it's like, "Oh my God, you go on a hike here, there's like no shade a lot of times until you get into a slot canyon and it just beats down on you." So be careful there. So as you're seeing, sometimes I had to just take off my backpack to navigate a little bit easier. Definitely more important for Spooky Canyon, but I would kind of be a little bit kind of considerate of what kind of backpack I bring on this trip. The reason is you might have to carry it in front of you for a while, and if it's huge or if it's heavy, mine kind of is both. I should have thought about that more. I did think about it a little bit, but I was just like, whatever, it'll be fine. And it was fine in the end. I would also consider bringing, but but I did like in Spooky, especially, you have to carry it for quite a while. So because of that, don't exactly want to bring a heavy pack that you have to carry in front of you. Also, not consider not bringing a really nice backpack, or maybe don't bring too nice of clothes, just because you're kind of slamming them into the wall, and it's kind of a sandpaper esque texture in some areas. So keep that in mind as well. Where is this hike located? It is located 26 miles down Hole in the Rock Road, which is in the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. The road starts, or ends, I suppose, in just outside of Escalante, Utah. And the 26 miles is, how to put it? The road is not like a super hardcore four-wheel drive road. So it's not like, you have to be off-roading and have some modified vehicle to get there. But I don't know. I feel like you probably could make it here in a two-wheel drive vehicle, but just know that you're going to be beating it up like the whole way. Like I feel like the road, I mean, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll get to it just after it was maintained or graded or something like that. But for the most part, I've been on this road a couple times, and every time it's just like quite slow going, and it's just kind of washboarded for a long, long portion of the way. So it's just kind of quite bumpy and jarring. Again, you probably could make it with as long as conditions are dry in like a two-wheel drive vehicle, but I wouldn't recommend it. Like a 4x4 SUV or a truck or something like that would be much better off. And if you really care about it, keeping it super clean and not beating on it a little bit, maybe it's not for you. But there's also not like super hardcore rock crawling, or it's not really like super narrow or anything like that where you have to do some crazy pass where you back up like a quarter mile to get off the road or anything like that. So that's cool. And as you can see, I'm taking off my pack, I'm putting it back on. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had a little trouble at the end of this hike. I when I had been here before, it was a few years ago, and I think they changed the main route that is going from the intended route anyway, going from Peekaboo over to Spooky Canyon. So I took a different route, and I wouldn't recommend it. So I'm not gonna give exact recommendations as to where the trail goes once you get out of Peekaboo Canyon. So keep that in mind. Pretty cool canyon. I feel like Spooky lasts a little bit longer because it's kind of like it's a little bit slower, and I would say it is just longer in general, like longer in length. But this canyon's pretty cool. You're in it for for over 10 minutes. I tend to like not really take many breaks. Obviously, I'm slow moving. I did take a few breaks to take photos and things like that. I don't know. Usually in my videos, I say Don't go by the time that I had because I'm a pretty fast hiker, but I don't know that I'm necessarily a fast slot canyoner. Let me know how long it takes you. Again, I'll link down below the hike that includes the full Peekaboo and Spooky Loop, along with going up that dry fork, which is kind of more mellow, but also really cool. Consider going to that upper canyon because you can kind of do a cool figure-8 trail. Check out the map before you go. I went to the lower, which worked out fine, but in the end, if I were to go back, I'd probably go to the upper because you can get a cool, kind of do a cool figure-8 and make a full day out of this hike, which is awesome. So as you can see here, it is opening up a little bit, and we are almost done. So I'm gonna check out, like, you can kind of keep going, and I do kind of sneak into one last little passage, but beyond that, I would think it would be very difficult for most humans to continue. Maybe like a little kid or a very small human could, but for a little while anyway. But you kind of start exiting the canyon, like right there is an easy place to get out. And like I said, please keep your eye out for Karens and stuff like that. I did not go the right way. There are also some cattle in this area, so that means there's kind of trails made by cattle. This is a sweet hike, though. If you're in nearby Escalante, I'd highly recommend checking it out. Utah Highway 12 is also fantastic. Oh my gosh, from you go through Red Canyon, and then you're near Bryce Canyon, and then you go over here to Escalante and over to Boulder, and then it ends or begins right near Capitol Reef. One of my favorite roads I've ever been on, if I'm honest. It kind of has everything and so many adventures right off of it, but it's not national park in a lot of the places, so it's kind of more, a little bit more adventurous in that way. Let me know if you think this video was helpful. If you did think it was helpful at all, oh my gosh, I'd really appreciate if you liked, if you commented, if you subscribed, that would be amazing. I have tons of these adventure videos. Currently, I'm kind of releasing mainly like full length videos, but I plan on going back and releasing a lot shorter videos for every hike as well. But I kind of want to cater to everyone if possible. So here we are, pretty much at the end. Beautiful, beautiful slot canyon. I love it here. This place is cool. Definitely worthwhile. Most people that I've talked to that have gone here, I mean, unless you're an experienced canyoneer, then you might think like, oh, it's pretty cool. But I feel like for a lot of people, this is really, really cool. I'm one of those people. It's awesome here. Look at that. Awesome photos. It's just a beautiful place. And you don't really get to go in slot canyons, especially like ones this narrow everywhere. I mean, obviously that's why this trail is somewhat popular, especially given how remote it really is. The other nice thing is you don't need any technical equipment or expertise. It really gets to that next level when you start introducing ropes and harnesses and stuff like that. I know you hardcore canyoneers that are watching this might think like that stuff's no big deal, but for a lot of people it really is. There is a huge learning curve involved with that to be able to do it safely and effectively. So now I kind of chose a random place to climb out. Again, from here, I'm not going to give you exact instructions. Just try to stay off the cryptobiotic soil and remember to leave no trace. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful time in Peekaboo Canyon.